Introducing Minor Wisdom Quintet.
1, 2, a skidda-didda-doo.
Minor Wisdom.
So this week on Minor Wisdom, I've got Teresa Ragland. Teresa was kind enough to sit down with me at a Minuti coffee. If you've never been to Minuti, cheap plug, they're not paying me. Shout out to Minuti. But if you have never, ever been and you're a Starbucks connoisseur and you love burnt coffee, go to Starbucks. But if you like fresh coffee, give it a minute and go to Minuti. I should be doing marketing. Anyway, she was kind enough to sit down with me. Teresa Ragland has a heck of an energy about her. And I'll be honest, full transparency, the reason I thought about her is because I know she teaches English online, wakes up really early, which we talk about, I believe, at some point in this interview. It's not a speech. But in this interview, we do talk about it. We touch base on it and discuss teaching English online. And I've thought about doing that myself as I transition from the brick and mortar classroom to other things, which I will let people know once things are official and I'm pleading for help. In the meantime, I haven't really plugged this too much. Head over to blakeminer.com. I'm starting sort of a consultant thing. Even if I were to stay in the classroom, I would still want to do this. But I do want to be a consultant to people. I want to be a contest manager more often than I have been. I want to be able to do things like that and still stay in the biz, if you will. So if you are a teacher listening to this, I don't care where you are, unless you're Matt Smith in Scotland, because I can't afford that. If you are a theater teacher and you need a contest manager in the state of Texas, or you just need a consultant and you currently live in a place that is convenient by airplane, then give me a call, give me a shout. There's a contact me form on that website, so please check it out, blakeminer.com. Real easy to remember if you know who I am. But tell your friends, hide your kids, hide your wife. So anyway, on to Teresa Ragland. We had a nice long chat, and it's inspirational when I get to chat to people, when I get to chat with people, when I get to talk to people who have just a lot of energy about what they do, a lot of passion about what they do. I'm a big believer, and I will always be a big believer, that your energy that you get out of things is what you put in. And I think that's very true. And I think there are a lot of people out there, not going to name names, that complain about what they don't get out of things, but they don't really put anything into it. Speaking of in and out, last week I had a couple of people. It's funny, I thought to myself after the Stuart Savage episode, man, if I just do a little controversy on this podcast or create some little like sketchy things or do anything that's worth talking about, then the podcast could blow up. But that's not what this is about. But last week it got out that I might prefer In-N-Out over Whataburger, and it's half true that I do, but and then I got a lot of response from that, and by a lot I mean just a handful of people. But it's crazy how that opinion was a catalyst to, you're crazy, man, you're not loyal to Texas, blah, blah, blah. It's not about loyalty or not. It's just like right now I'm rooting for the Houston Roughnecks, 3-0, baby. PJ Walker, dynamite. It's not like I'm not a Texans fan, and I'm really not that big of a Texans fan, to be honest. TBH, I'm a Houston Oilers fan, but that's another day. But anyway, so what? I like In-N-Out. And you know what? I had it 2 weeks ago. I had their milkshake. I didn't have multiple. I had one, and it was disgusting, so I will never get that again. But at Whataburger, I love me a chicken taco. Can't get that in In-N-Out. Anyway, that wasn't the Groner joke, even though some of you think it is a joke. Here's the Groner joke of the week. What do sprinters eat before a race? Nothing. They fast.
Okay, hello, my name is Teresa Ragland, and I currently teach at Pershing Middle School in Houston ISD. It's a fine arts magnet. I am in year 16 of teaching, and according to my TRS, thank you, Jesus, I'm 6 years out from retirement.
Oh, nice.
So I have done a lot of things. One thing that most people don't know is my true age. They think I'm a lot younger, which is great. It was not so great when I was younger, and everybody always mistook me for a child. And in college, I played all the child roles. But I'm 49, and so I've been working for a long time. And I've only been teaching for 16.
You got a little Scotty Foltz syndrome, maybe?
Oh.
You look younger than just that part of it.
I love Scotty. I've gotten to work with Scotty several times, so that's a compliment there. I came to theater in junior high. No, I'm sorry. Well, I did theater. It was called church theater with my mom, and it was called Christmas plays. Never marry, still not bitter. I was always a shepherd or wise man, but I could out-sing everybody, and I was always louder than everybody else, so she would always put me in the ones that did a lot of singing. Just never marry. You know, she's the star of the show. Right. She has Jesus and everything, but I know you're Jewish. But in high school, my freshman year, community theater, we actually lived down here in the Houston area back then, and the Liberty Community Theater was doing Annie, and I went and auditioned for Annie and got it, and played it, loved it, did theater at school. I, honest to God, don't remember anything of theater from school at that point. It didn't make any impression. I always did music and choir. That was my big thing. I actually thought I was going to go to school and be a band director. And I did that, and then we moved to East Texas. And East Texas is like the artsless in many ways, especially at schools and small schools. And I was at a very small rural school in Alto, Texas. And the only theater that we had was one-act play. So I'm one of those kids that got to do theater because of one-act play, and that was my exposure to it. And I had a lovely teacher, Paula Lowe, still friends with her on Facebook, and she was my one-act play director. And I loved it, and my junior year there at Angelina College, junior college in Lufkin, got a note that they were auditioning for Annie. And I was told, don't you want to go and do it? And I had a family friend that took me to auditions and everything, and auditioned and got it. And from there, that was where it really hit. And I got scholarships for full rides at AC for doing it. So my dad's a Baptist preacher, and we were fairly poor growing up. So I knew for school, I had to get very good grades, and I did. I graduated valedictorian in my class. But B, I had to go where the money was, and they offered me a full ride, and so I took it, and loved it. Was a theater major, English minor, but then that changed because I got married, and then it became, you got to put food on the table, and I changed to an English major, a music minor. And at the time, I kind of went away from school for a while because electric bills need to be paid and those kind of things. But I went back to school in my later 20s and graduated. At the time, I was also managing a dance studio and teaching at a dance studio. Came to that late in life, too, because Dad was a Baptist preacher, and you did not dance if you were Baptist, because that was of the devil. So funny how so many things in my life came from me being Baptist and kind of rebelling against a lot of that. But I left there and did the world for a while as far as regular working stuff, managed doctor's offices, managed retail, all those kind of things that also kind of go along with theater, with your scheduling and being over, getting a project done, things like that. So little did I know I was still working on all of those skills that you use in theater. And went back to college and got my English degree with a music minor because that was the quickest way for me to graduate at the time. I knew, though, before I graduated, I had already been offered a job teaching choir and theater at Nacogdoches ISD, and did that for 5 years. Then I moved to Lufkin at the same time. I also got started in the U of H MA program. I was one of the second years, which, so it was very early on in the game with them that I went to that program. Loved it. It was a game changer and a life changer for me. Coming also from someone who didn't do as much theater in college as some of my cohort had done. Some of my cohort, people like Stephanie Whittles, and she was Whittles back then, and she was just one that they had a very kind of almost intimidating to me theater background because they had done that and they had gone to college specifically for that and graduated with that. But U of H has, it's not just for people that are totally theater with that program. So there were some people in my cohort that they had also kind of done the non-traditional way around things too. And so I loved it, and I will definitely tell anybody that's thinking of it. It made me a better teacher. It really took my teaching to another level. Anyway, I did that, was at Lufkin quite a bit, left 1 year, came down to Fort Bend, taught at Travis High School for a year, went back. One of the things that had been a dream for many years, I had worked with the Angelina Arts Alliance, and I had been over all their summer camps, and went from being a camp teacher to camp director. We grew it to 3 different separate camps in the summer. And I knew that we, myself and another fellow area teacher, his name's Don Wilson Glenn, and he's actually a playwright, national playwright. One of his plays has just been optioned for a movie and everything. And he's done some work with ensemble theater down here. And we knew we wanted to start a community theater program because there was nothing like that in Lufkin. The former one had gone out of business for whatever reason. And we thought that Lufkin was a size that it needed something. So did that with him, and it took about 7 years before that came into full fruition. And now they're going strong. We do the camp every summer for kids still. We took that over. So I've done that end of things as well. I've directed, been on the board with the Cherokee Community Theater Board there in East Texas. I'm a big believer in giving back to your community and supporting the arts in your community, even if that means you are the arts in your community, especially if you're in a smaller town. I think, we've talked about, we have some different kind of work things and philosophies and stuff, but I know you give back a lot too to area theaters and stuff, and I've seen you working at different shows and things. And I feel like you've got to stay working, you've got to stay active, keeping a hand in some way to stay creative, because if you're not, then I find personally, if I'm not doing something, my own directing gets a little stagnant. And the things I'm doing, I have to be creatively challenged, which right now is kind of a yuck thing for me, because one of the things I did in East Texas, I sang a lot in different rock bands and a few country western bands, the very short-lived Teresa Ragland band. Oh my gosh, talk about a mix of personalities. Get into a band, people. It is hard going, and it's hard finding a good mix of personalities and work ethics that you can do things together. So I really, really miss doing that, being down here. I find that I feel a lot better about myself when I'm singing on stage. So I miss that. I miss doing theater. I loved directing for adults. It was very different. And as you've talked about before, cursing and things, you can curse and you can get away with more, and a little bit more difficult pieces, challenging pieces as far as content compared to sometimes what you get in the school setting.
So speak on that though a little bit, because now you've gone to every level. pretty much. But now you're at a fine arts, like Pershing's been a
Oh, I adore it.
yeah, but it's been a fine arts like hub for since I was in middle
Yes.
school, even before that. So are you able to experiment a little bit more with?
Oh
some
my
of
God.
some of those 11 to 13-year-old.
I am so blessed. When I interviewed and went in, because this is my second year, I had told the principal, I was like, okay, I just need to know. Normally, I come from a very conservative background, East Texas, and I'm not going to do anything that's going to have people up here screaming and yelling or arguing about things. I mean, one time we did a zombie play for Halloween. And I had parents complaining, that it was demons and zombies and of the devil, that kind of stuff. And I still laugh about that kind of thing. But I had asked him about that, and he was like, I trust your judgment. You don't have to show me anything. And if you want to push the envelope some, let me know. And I'm fine with that. So, we've had curse words in our plays, which a lot of middle schools will not allow.
Right.
We've had some, I wouldn't say too controversial of stuff. Like, we did Shrek, and Shrek has a little bit of adult jokes thrown in here and there. We didn't have to take any of them out. Right. He had told me, because I really wanted to do You're in Town. That's one of my bucket shows, because I love the show. I'd like to be in the show.
Yeah, it's great.
And he had told me, yeah, we can do that. And so we were actually looking hard at doing that. So we have our production season. This is so crazy. 8 or 9 shows this year. So right now, I know we're working on, I've got Matilda. We're doing the full length. That's in production right now. We'll perform that one in April. I have 2 shorter plays, Holocaust plays, that we will be doing in May 14th, called The Night of Remembrance. 2 of my magnet classes are doing those, and we're actually going to a Holocaust museum tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Monday. To tour, because so many of the kids,
have you been there since they've
yes,
done the,
it's
okay.
beautiful,
Yeah,
beautiful. So many of the kids haven't been there. They don't know that much about that time period, and to get a little political, history always repeats.
Yes.
And so I want them to kind of be aware of some things that happened that could possibly happen in our lifetime, shall we say. So without getting too political with the students and all, but I try to do that. And if I had wanted to do any kind of play with LGBTQ kids or whatever, I would be okay to do that.
Right.
So it's
great.
really cool. Another show in production, we're doing a bilingual show called August and Noble. That's a full length, and that will be in May as well, May 15th, because I'm a glutton for punishment.
Just running them in rep.
Yeah. So we've already had several shows. We had one act. We did Girl in the White Pinafore. I'm all about the cutesy shows. I've been there, done that, but
Right.
I don't really do those anymore.
Are you concerned, because since Pershing is a magnet school, it doesn't mean that they're going to they could potentially go back to their home high school. Are you concerned,
Yes.
without naming schools, are you ever concerned that maybe they're going to get less of a challenge in high school because
Good
they
question.
were so fortunate in middle?
And it's a good thing that I don't know the schools at HISD. But HISD, we're pretty kind of close-knit with the theater teachers, and we do have a lot of communication. There's several of us that go out and watch shows together quite a bit.
Right.
And we try to be supportive of each other. And that has been an issue in the past for me. It hasn't been so much this year, because most of my students, if they're zoned, they're going to Bel Air or Lamar.
Right.
I know both of those directors.
Yeah.
If they're not, I honestly, most of them have told me if they're zoned, if they're non-zoned but they're there for magnet theater, a lot of them don't go to theater for high school. We know how parents can be, and they want them to do the STEM things, and those things where you can get a job one day, they think. I hate to tell them that there's a lot of employment available in the arts too, but they don't always want to hear that.
No.
So they want them to do those things, and I get it. Middle school is a time for students to explore, to discover what they like, who they want to be. It sounds so cliched, but it really is. They discover, hey, I really like all the science stuff.
Right.
Maybe I want to go to debate. Maybe I want to, go into that. You have those that really, I've got kids that I'm shocked at how well they draw and do different things. I mean, I've got kids that go to HSPVA, but that's not a lot of my kids.
Right.
It's only a percentage.
And PVA's become less of a pedestal school because there's so many other high schools now that have stepped up their game. But anyway.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I've my two big ones that I try to push kids to are PVA and Carnegie Vanguard.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God, who wouldn't want to go learn from Stuart Savage? I want to be back in high school. Yeah. I want to go, well, not really that I want to be at high school again,
right.
but I would love to go and learn from him because he is brilliant. And I would love to be in his program.
So that goes back to what we were talking about off mic, and we won't name names except we can name Stewart, but the idea of being able to still as an educator work with people that elevate your game and teach you
Amen.
how to be a better educator.
Amen.
And we can all give and take.
Yes.
Because I'm sure Stewart would say, not to put words in his mouth, but I will. But I'm sure Stewart would say, like, there's a lot he could learn from somebody like you, as far as work ethic, things like that, energy, and being able to.
My schedule is nuts.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
Notoriously.
Yes. I think that's one thing. If people know me for any length of time, they know I'm constantly doing things. It's not necessarily always school stuff, too. One of the things I tell people when they talk about burnout, you can't be just about school.
Right.
You've got to find, hello motorcycle, you've got to find those things that energize you and that take your mind off school. Because if all you think about is school, you're screwed. And you'll be burned out, fried, and crispy, and you'll be one of those teachers we hear about in the news or something. So you can't do it.
So how do you keep your beak wet then, as far as learning from others? Is it you're currently sitting with a TTA shirt on?
Yes.
So is it through that kind of participation through TTA?
Yes, I go to TETA. I've done thespians. I didn't get to go to TTEC this year, but the Texas Theater Educator Conference, I went last year, the inaugural year, and was just blown away. Yeah. I've been on the TTA K-12 committee. I've done all that.
I made a mess.
That's okay.
I just shaved today, so I'm used to having a sponge on the bottom of my mouth to catch things. Anyway.
Oh man, so I'm a firm believer in that. One of the things that I truly love about Pershing, not just my principal and some of my fellow fine arts teachers, my department is amazing, but one of the things that I love is my principal is cool and is supportive of us going. So like I've gone to HAP this year. That's Houston Art Partners. I do HAP in the fall. We just did Scene Muros, and that's the Latinx workshop and conference. And so I've done that. If there's some type of training or conference,
he's for it.
He's for it. And you have to find that. We laugh about that phrase about go where you're celebrated. Yeah. But if you've got a good admin, they want you learning. They want you bringing it back and sharing your passion and what you've learned with the students and all. And I'm extremely fortunate that is where I am, that he is a believer in that for us.
Right. So. That's great. Mm-hmm. Have you experienced the opposite?
Oh, yes. East Texas, can we say. We get to. How'd you keep your motivation and energy going? I'm sure the other teachers are pretty pissed this year because we do take kids a lot. My principal lets us. We go see a lot of shows, and that's something that also motivates me as well. Seeing professional theater, seeing other shows. We would try to go at night because we could not leave during the day, but yet we were in East Texas, so we would have to drive. Usually it was around 2 hours to Houston to see a show, 3 hours to Dallas. Right. And we would get a school bus, and we would do weekend shows and just drive, get on the bus and load it and go and watch a show and things. But as far as the actual educator type of things, if it wasn't TETA and Summerfest with TETA, then you didn't really have anything.
Right.
And we would try to do some things with the Arts Alliance. And one of the things that I did was I would try to pull in local theater teachers so they could kind of get that experience. When I did that, I also pulled in a lot of amazing teachers. And I know I'm going to forget some of these names, but and not name everybody. But I had people like, I had Scotty. He was one of them. But I had people like MJ Alexander. I adore MJ. David Fleming. I had different people like Philip Taylor. Loved having Philip Taylor coming in and directing some of our high school shows.
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him. I know he's a relative unknown, and especially in the theater education world.
Yeah.
But he is brilliant with kids, and watching him on stage directing kids and seeing what he could get them to do, I learned a lot just by kind of going through some of the rehearsals and watching. And another way that I kind of helped myself grow too is to become a contest manager.
Sure.
And seeing the different shows coming through, working the backstage of them, and that helped a lot too. And I think that's helped me be a better director, because I see things I like, things I don't like. I can talk to people about it, but especially trying to be fair with the rules and things like that. So just you have to find ways to be creative. And I saw something with Billy Porter once at an interview, and he was talking about if you got to make theater in your living room, you got to do it. And I think that people need to kind of remember that if you need that to be artistic, you got to get out and find those ways. You can't just expect them to come to you. And there are a lot more programs out there now. There's a lot of camps that have the internships per se for teachers to go in and work. I think there is a cost. Very little in this world is free anymore. But there's Summerfest, there's those camps. And I would even go so far as to say, get involved with your local community theater. And I know there's that stigma and the stereotype of, community theater. Well, if you don't think it's that good, then get in there and work on making it better. And give back to your community and do something. That is one thing that I've always been proud of, especially in East Texas with my students, was we did a lot of things giving back to the local women's shelter. Food banks, different things like that. So you've got to teach your kids. And I will tell you, I don't think there's anybody better in this area than Julio Morales at teaching your students to give back.
No argument from me. Yeah, I mean, the guy, even yesterday, he just posted about something, doing something yesterday.
Yeah, his kids are constantly going. They're volunteering. They did some garden or something. And helping out their community. Like they go and support one of their feeder elementaries. They were at the elementary. I have my judging as well. I went and got that, but then I left Fort Bend and went to Houston, so I can't judge unless it's a festival. And
Julio makes a lot of teachers look really bad. Just because he does so much with his kids, and it's almost effortless too. It has become, at that school, it's become an expectation rather than just some sort of.
If he ever leaves, I don't think they'll find somebody to fill those shoes at all.
And he's going to. He has to, because he's become such a legend, if you will, that he's going to be sought after. Somebody's going to snag him up.
Yes. And my friend Joe, I have friends that are just outside theater too. That's important. And I have friends that are musicians and choir and all those kind of things. And he was just at TMEA, and I asked him, what was your favorite workshop? What did you learn? And he talked about how it wasn't actually a pedagogy type thing. It was that a man was up there kind of talking about mental health, but one of the things he said was, people may think you're irreplaceable, but if you have, and I know I'm not wording this correctly, so sorry, Joe, but if you are that active in a program and you're doing that much with your program and things, you really are irreplaceable, because no one's going to come in and fill that void in the community from what you have done. And I try to be at that level, I think, a lot with what I'm doing, and I do put in a lot of hours.
Yeah, that's funny. There's also the theory that You are never. You are always replaceable. Again, can't English good right now, but you. I feel the same way right now as I'm leaving my situation. Is what about me? Not to sound egotistical, but what about me is going to be missed?
Yes.
And I'd like to think that everything will be smoothly transitioned, and that you'll never know that I even left.
They'll never forget the LeMay outfit that you wore.
That's true. I still own that, so I can bring it back somewhere
There
else.
you go.
It's also that idea of people always are curious about when I die.
What will people say about me?
What will people say, and what will be missed? What is going to be irreplaceable? But yeah, that's Julio does have that to an extent, and there are people in our world that have that. But I'll hope that I'm not going to necessarily be completely replaced, but they'll. And I joke with my kids. I said, "Look, you should look forward to next year because you're finally going to get a teacher. All these years you've been without an educator. You just had a dad.
Yeah.
So and we joke about that, but it's true. It's what are as these people drive like maniacs next to us. What is it that you're going to the imprint that you're going to leave on the community? It's always something that's. You mentioned before we started chatting too about like kind of how much you put in, right? I'm paraphrasing, but it's just the amount that you put in to a department or to your students is going to reflect back at you, because your students. There are some directors, and I will not name names, but I will send them an email once on my last day of school.
The things you could say. The things you could say.
There are quite a few directors that complain all the time about, I don't get this, I don't get that, but they don't give. And you want to tell them that.
You've got to be willing to put yourself out there too.
Yeah.
And, it's rough. It is a sacrifice, and I know if I could go back and do it all again, sometimes with my daughter, I know she missed out on a lot with me, but I also had her at rehearsals a lot. But I know, like, my own personal family life missed out some because I poured so much into being an educator. And I was thinking on the way over here, if I had to do it all over again, what would I do? Would I still be doing the same thing? And while I might not be teaching, although I doubt it, because even through, high school and stuff, I worked with the kids' choirs at church and everything. And I always enjoyed doing that type of thing and working with kids. And I taught dance for many years with kids from the age of 2 on up. You want a challenge? You teach a class of 16 2-year-olds, especially how to stay on a line, how to stay on their spot. Who cares about dancing? It's just staying on a spot and how to stay in line and things like that. Oh my gosh, it can be a little crazy and all, and was it worth it and everything? And I hope that I've instilled a passion for, even if they're not doing theater, an appreciation for theater and the work that goes into it. I would have parents joke with me that their kids always did more for me than they ever did for home. And I was like, well, because I expect it. I put them to work. I hate seeing kids just sitting around while others are busy working and things. So that's one of the things that I really try to instill in my kids is a work ethic.
So you mentioned you're not super far from retirement.
Praise God.
But you also are, I wouldn't call you necessarily a workaholic, but you're an energy, you have a lot of energy. What are you going to do?
Well, one of the things that I do, and not necessarily saying that I'll quit teaching, although that is what I'm thinking about. There are so many different avenues out there, but I currently also teach online with VIP Kid. Put a plug in for them. I love it. I'm in year 2. It's took a little while because I can't work that many hours because I'm already working a lot with my full-time job. But I usually put in, oh my goodness, 10 I probably put in around at least 20 hours a week.
Okay.
With that as my side hustle, and 10 during the week, and the rest 10 to 20 more, depending on how I'm feeling on the weekends. And it's taken a little while, but I worked it up my regulars, and I stay booked. I love it. I truly see it being the wave of the future, online teaching, especially with a lot of the disciplinarian issues and things in the classroom, and a lot of parents are kind of rethinking things, especially with gun violence and stuff like that. So I can see more and more parents getting into it. I don't think there's a really good platform yet. There may be, I just don't know about it for online education, but I know in China they do a lot of different things like that. And the worst part about it is you have to be on Beijing time, which currently is 14 hours ahead. So what that means is I'm up some mornings at 4:15, but generally it's 4:45. Like this morning I was up at 4:15. And I teach usually about two hours during the week before I get ready to go to school. And I do usually 3 to 4. It used to be a lot more, but the Chinese government passed a law this last year that said that their kids can't take online classes after 9 p.m., which sucked because that took away, quite a few hours of my teaching time. But I understood why they did it, because they are very serious about education over there. But I will say this, while I do hear some talking about taking theater every now and then, what I do hear them talking about is musical instruments and art and dance. So they're also not just about general education, but their kids are also, a lot of them, involved in at least one sport, and they are doing some form of fine art. And so their kids, because they're doing all that, are definitely, I think, better, more well-rounded with a lot of the things that they're doing. So I love it, and it's right up a theater teacher's alley. Call me or message me if you want more information.
Well, that's something that hopefully I'm getting into, but we'll see. We'll see where that goes.
They love guys.
Sometimes I don't English good.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they love male teachers. I've always heard that. I've seen it. There's a lot of different Facebook groups that are actually very supportive, and they love male teachers. And I tell you, one of the things that I've talked about with a few people, they've got the coronavirus going on, and it's been a month of shutdown pretty much over there, and the kids are staying in their apartments, their homes. They're not able to really leave. They're doing school online, and they're doing all of their homework and everything online. And I kind of put it out there, how would that work in America? If even just in Texas, if we had to shut everything down and everyone stay at home, how are the kids going to learn? And would they? Would they even do their work? What's the work ethic like for that type of thing?
So I want to unpack this a little bit. If you see online education being sort of a wave of the future, or becoming more and more popular, how do you
for what we do, it's kind of impossible, I think.
What we do, yes, yeah. But I mean, as far as some of the core classes, I mean, even what's his name, who has the math, the Khan Academy, how he does videos, little 15 minute. Even my daughter has done some of the Khan Academy stuff. They assign that to you. But how do you see the social element unfolding?
The social element, they're not going to get that, but they've got to be involved in other things. But you look at the social element now with kids. Their social element is their phone. And they're not doing a whole lot of interacting with other people face to face anyway. So I think we need to do something about that as a country. If we don't get our kids back to being able to interact with other people in a way that's beyond emails, messaging, texting, TikTok videos, we've got to find a way to get back to that humanity and empathy and working with other people. And right now, theater does that. So you get your kids involved in the arts in some way, but it really, I think, is going to be, something that if schools continue going the way many of them have, and a lot of parent dissatisfaction What is an alternative?
Right.
Well, a lot of people have done homeschooling already, and say what you will, good or bad about it. I don't have a lot of positive FYI to say about it, but I get why people want to do it,
Right.
especially with coming from that religious background. I get why a lot of people want to do that
Sure.
for their own personal religious reasons and things. But socially, I think kids have got to have some kind of interaction, but it needs to be a lot more
Right.
than what they're getting even now. It's just not the same as what you and I
Right.
would have had when we were in school.
Yeah.
And you're a lot younger than I am, so
10 years. Yeah. Not a whole lot. But what is, so switching gears back to the world of theater, what is a show that you would like to redo
oh my
that you've done and you want to...
God, my fall show that we did with one of my Shakespeare's.
this
One of my
is
Shakespeare's.
a new wound. It
Yes,
sounds like.
it is. It's still fresh. Gosh, there's a few times I've redone some shows. I've been at different schools, and usually it's because it's the musical. And the reason for that is because I put a lot of kids on stage. And there's not a lot of musicals out there that you can put 70 to 80
Yeah.
kids on the stage. So, and especially at the middle school level,
Right.
what can work for them. So I've done Oliver a few times. I've done both Oklahoma Junior, Oklahoma Full Length. I don't like doing juniors anymore. I want my kids to have that experience to prepare them for high school. And I think that doing that full length, if you've got the kids, you got the talent and the money, because it ain't cheap. If you've got those things, do it. And just a side note about money and things. This is the first time in my whole career that I've really been at a place that I get what I need.
Right.
Like at NAC, I got a little, but I still fundraised a lot. At Lufkin, everything was fundraised.
Right.
And I was very fortunate that I was able to get a lot of things from area colleges like SFA and AC to borrow costumes and things, set pieces. I would drive all over the state. People would loan things
Right.
and all. So I try, if I can, to help out when people say, hey, I need something. If I got it, I message them and I'm like, hey, I got it.
Sure.
Because that helped me in my career. But going back and revisiting shows, no. I was at different places at everyone, and I did the best that I could at where I was at with those shows. Would my first year of school, of teaching, those shows, oh my God. I couldn't watch them now without cringing.
Right.
But that was where I was at. And you have to also celebrate, where you're at and where you're at now,
Right.
how far you've come. So I know that my skills and all have become better, but it's from going back to school, going to conferences, networking with people. It's with working with different age groups, working with music, working as a dance teacher, doing all those different things. That's helped me to be a more well-rounded. I mean, I can do tech, but I'm not a tech director. I can get by because all of those years it was just me.
Right.
So I had to be able to do it. And I can light, still can't sew. Miss Pat Baldwin tried her best. I can hand sew, but after tearing up 3 machines in college, I was put on power tools. Like, that's a safer alternative. But I can get by, and with all my band work and stuff, I have all my own sound equipment. It's back in East Texas, but I can work a decent sound if I need to. Just like I normally work mics for my shows because I generally have around 20 body mics going.
Okay.
And I don't like switching off mics too much. It's just that's a way that you get a lot of flubs.
And break things.
And yeah.
What you mentioned you sang. Did you say what you played?
I play piano. I actually grew up playing drums and piano.
Oh, okay.
I played drums all through band. I was drum major in my senior year. Like I said, I thought I was going to be a music teacher of
Right.
some sort. But when I got to, was in that play, and then that kind of changed my trajectory
Right.
when I did Annie my junior year. So, and met the cool people at AC.
So did you not do one-act play in high school?
I did.
Oh, you did?
I did my when I moved to Alto, my sophomore, junior, and senior year. So back then, I think we were still 2A. Alto is still 2A,
Yeah.
and I'm here to tell you, UIL people, it's a different ball game at those lower A's
Yeah.
than it is at the higher A's. And you want to have a love for theater, you go teach at those 2A's, even those 3A's where you're the only director, and you might not even teach theater all day long, or you might not teach theater at all.
It's only after school.
Yeah. That's one of the things with contest managing. I try to be super thorough with everything I send out, and I always try to let, because I do a lot of smaller conferences,
Sure.
and I let them know, hey, always call me. Here's my number. Call me if you ever have a question or worried about anything. And I get a lot of that because they don't know the rules.
Right.
They didn't do theater. They've been thrown into it by principal. They just got hired. Oh, we need a theater teacher. We need a one-act play director. Hey, you're teaching English. Oh, you're a coach. Oh,
Yeah.
there's a lady in Groveton, Deb Turrentine, that, oh my God, she does what? Chemistry, biology. She does all of these math and science and theater. And that's the way it is in East Texas. And you got to love that. They're in the trenches and they're
That's how it
doing
is
their thing.
even west, too. I mean, I remember last year when I interviewed all these state qualifiers,
Mm-hmm.
talking to the lower A directors about, they're not a theater teacher. They're a director, and they did theater when they were in college or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the way they go.
And speaking of kind of doing the theater in college, the community theater thing, just to put in a plug, my new baby I'm trying to get started, and I need help. So I don't know if we're going to have to do a GoFundMe or what, but I'm trying to start something called HATT, H-A-T-T, Houston Area Theater Teachers Productions, because, when's the last time we were in a show? We had that love, many of us. We loved acting, but we loved working with kids too and sharing our passion. But we don't get that being in a show anymore. And there's that spark, that camaraderie that comes from being in a show and also realizing, oh my shit, you've got to learn these lines.
Yeah.
Oh my God, now I know why my kids are griping about learning lines, because I haven't had to learn lines in like 20 something years. Yeah. And you kind of appreciate what your kids are going through, and you empathize with them just a little bit better. But I miss being in shows.
Yep.
And we're wanting to put on a musical. Our hope is for Little Shop of Horrors. This horrors.
Yeah.
That's a different show, people. But one of the things that we want to do, it'd be Houston area theater teachers. But I've also had, with all my friends that play different instruments and symphony, orchestra, whatever around, that they were interested in coming in and just playing in the orchestra and doing things with it. Is that we would like to have also try to use some of those profits for scholarships for Houston area theater students, as a way to give back also with them, but still getting to do something that we love. So if you're interested, people, if you have some money to spare, if you know someone with some money to spare, give me a call, message me. I am on Facebook.
Yeah. So I was just in a show at our school this year out of convenience because we had a student fail and just didn't have the men to fill the parts. So I had to memorize, and this was a week and a half before the show opened. Mm-hmm. Oh man, it was, and I realized this too, because that was the first play I'd ever been in. I'd only ever been in musicals.
Uh-huh.
And so something I realized actually a couple days ago, clinicking with Stewart, was he pointed out to a student who is in our show. We're doing Smash right now, and there's one of the head of the college is in a wheelchair, and she's a musical theater person.
Oh wow!
But she's been having such difficulty memorizing her lines, and Stewart said, "Do you think it's maybe because you're just sitting the entire time that you're not able to retain the information?" And she just, her brain just went, oh my gosh, that's probably what it is. And it felt that way for me with being in Great Gatsby, because the only time I walked was when I was killing Gatsby, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
I played Wilson.
He dies.
Yeah, but the other times I was seated or just standing there. I didn't have blocking, and that's not a knock on the director. It just happened to be what that role wasn't huge until
The requirements
he comes out
kind of,
and kills Gatsby. But I realized I'm not doing anything. I'm not moving. I'm just sitting here reciting lines to the point where
kinesthetic learning.
Yes, correct. To the point where I wrote I was in 3 scenes with lines. I wrote the lines on the stage where nobody could see them, and my students thought that was the great. They loved it. Because this weak little man that can't, he's supposed to be teaching us how to do this,
and he can't even memorize his own lines. Yeah,
and it wasn't a lot too. It wasn't a lot of lines, but it's funny how there are teachers out there. I'm a huge proponent of teachers need to do in order to stay relevant, and also just to stay relevant with their kids, because they might say, well, when was the last time you've done theater? And they're like, 20 years ago I did it.
Like,
why should I listen to you now?
Yeah. Did you have kids coming out to watch you just because you were in the show?
Yes.
Yes. The last show that I did, there at the Community Theater in Lufkin, that I was actually in and not directing or anything like that. It was kind of our inaugural show that season. And the first as really getting our 501c3 and everything. We were doing Dearly Departed, because I adore that show.
Yeah.
I really do. And it's East Texas to a T. And I mean, you see people up on that stage. There's family members up there that just like that. And I had to step in and be Suzanne. I had 3 rehearsals, and it was hell. I'm not even going to lie.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I had great cast members, and I was fortunate that is one show that I have directed more than once, because I just love the characters, and I have family members that I see in those, and those family members are gone, and it makes me remember them and things in a fond way. So I had students, after the first night, and the word got out, because she and Junior have some fun scenes together, and a little of the makeout at the funeral home and everything. And the word got out, and just every night, more and more students. My principal even came and watched one night. He was like, "Oh my God, Ragland!" So we had a lot of fun with that scene. Yeah. And the guy that played Junior and all, we're really good friends, and it was a lot of fun. But you get respect with your kids, because they see that, hey, you're suffering, because they knew I would have my script out, and I'd be like, okay, test me here. Let's go through this scene. How far off am I? And they laugh about that, but it helps build that bridge with them, that they see that, you're going through it too.
They like to see you vulnerable.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. And when I would play, my band would do at an all ages kind of place. I would invite my students, and or mostly actually their parents, but their parents, because I was friends with a lot of them, small town.
Yeah.
And they would bring the kids, and that also, I would have students that would come up to me after and ask about a lot of songs, because we did 70s and 80s and things. And they would say, oh, I knew that song. That's the song that my mom and dad, they love to listen to.
That's cool.
And I've had students then that I've seen go on to choir shows that they were in and singing some of those songs, and I'd be like, oh, where'd you hear that? And they're like, I love that song when you did it, and I wanted to sing it.
I'm concerned because when I leave education, I've always wanted to get back into stand-up comedy, because I did it when I was in college.
Oh, I can see that.
With a friend of mine. And I knew that I had to do it once I left, because if it ever got out that Mr. Miner's doing stand-up comedy at 10:30 on a Monday night, that I would have students there, and that's a quick way to lose your job.
Yeah.
Not that I would be, I'm not going to be vulgar or anything like that.
But just that time.
Even without the teaching job, I wouldn't. But still, it's I can understand that, because I know that the minute I put that out there this summer, hey, I'm going to be at such and such, the Mucky Duck, doing a 5-minute set.
They'll be there.
I'll have 20 kids there.
And that was one thing I always felt extremely supported by parents and things, because they would come out and watch. And fellow theater teachers and teachers from around the area would come and watch me do my shows and things. So it's very important to support your friends, people. If you got fellow theater teachers that you're friends with in a show, go out and watch them. Put your money where your mouth is. Whatever. Go and see them, and that helps us all also feel better when we can see our peers coming out and supporting us too.
Minor wisdom.